Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the fourth episode of Choco-talko. I'm here with...
It's me. My name's Joe. I
Joe
was expecting
English,
you to say my
the...
name. My bad.
Yeah, sorry. You want to do that again?
No, it's cool.
Alright, cool. So you
I think
made
false starts
Galaxy
are
Cat.
funnier.
Is that right?
Yeah, they can be. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying false starts are funny.
Yeah, false starts are funny. This is gonna be a great episode, I can tell.
Oh, I hope so.
Alright, so when you were making Galaxy Cat, what was your inspirations?
Definitely like mid 2000s, like early 2010s indie games is probably the bigger ones. Things like Super Meat Boy and VVVVVV or 6V, however you want to call that game, um, were probably the biggest inspirations. Also, games like I Want to Be the Guy or I Want to Be the Bushy, like things like that,
I
were
got
probably
such
the
a
bigger
fan
ones.
game
Yeah,
feel, so I'm glad to see.
yeah, for sure. And the graphical style was I mean, obviously NES inspired. I used the color palette for the NES and only the color palette for the NES. So that was an interesting challenge to not use more than that. But
Yeah, I follow a lot of artists on Twitter, and they say restrictions can actually allow a lot of creativity.
yeah, definitely. The game I'm currently working on, it only uses like a 5 color grayscale. So
That's exciting. Do you have any screenshots?
I'm not at the moment. I think you did like a post I put on Twitter a little while ago. That was like the initial like prototyping of it. But
Oh yeah, I'll add that in post.
mhm.
But
Yeah,
it
it's
reminds
very early
me.
stages. It probably won't be done for maybe a month or two.
Oh really? It's that close?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a much simpler game, and they'll probably just put it out for free. But I'm probably roughly a third of the way through.
Well, I'll be sure to add that to the description when that comes out.
Well, cool. Thank you.
Now this game, Galaxy Quest, it reminds me a lot of the early, Xbox 360 indie games. I don't know if you play much of those.
Not, I mean, I guess like Super Meat Boy is one of those. I'm sure you've seen Indie Game the movie on Netflix. It
Yeah,
talks a lot
definitely.
about how they were scared of getting like screwed over on the release day, and it shows like them freaking out in the morning when the Xbox 360 store didn't have their game on the release day right away. It was like interesting, but yeah, not a whole lot. Just mostly Meat Boy, I think. But yeah.
So let's see. The writing in this game is pretty good with Galaxy Cat.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
So how did you come up with all that stuff?
It's interesting. The story of the game is came way later. So the early origins of the game itself came from me working on an entirely different project by myself, and then eventually I had a friend who's a pixel artist come on, and we were working on this game that expanded on my earlier idea, and I was pretty unconfident about my abilities to do game design and using someone else's art because he was doing all this really cool like animations and cutscene stuff, and I was like, God, I'm not sure how to implement this. I'm still so new on making this stuff. Um, so I ended up breaking off and starting what was originally Galaxy Boy instead of Galaxy Cat, and it was just like a little stick figure or something. I don't know. And over like building levels, it eventually made sense to. I don't know. I don't know where the like source of the original story came from. Honestly, it just kind of like happened at one point, and then like as you get ideas for like a story concept, it just kind of like evolves from one step to another. So like you're like, okay, well, it's a cat in space. What happens after that? Well, what is the galaxy cat? Is the little thing you control? Is the little kitten you control the galaxy cat? It's like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. And so that like gave birth, I guess, to um the like deity or like the like watching figure that creates Cause. The kitten character is named Cause. And yeah, it just like I think the text and the dialogue and stuff is very Undertale inspired. Um, I wasn't really thinking of that as I was writing it, but in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of goofy and has like very sincere moments in it and stuff. So yeah, the origin of how the story came about is complete mystery to me. It just kind of evolved naturally as I was building out levels and stuff.
So you could say maybe the Watcher gave you the ideas.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he was like building up the game inside of my brain, much like he built Cause. Like the Eye of Entropy came about because I knew that there was like no antagonist in the air quote story. Like it's a really simple story. So like having some sort of like slightly malevolent force kind of gave rise to that.
So one of the things I like the most about this game is the level design. They all feel so tightly packed, and they all feel unique also, which is really hard. I see a lot of games, they tend to kind of repeat ideas, but like for instance, I don't know if I can screen share, but I'm watching my speedrun right now. The part where there's
Mhm.
like all the red saws going back and forth.
Oh, like in the I think it's level 7 or 8 on the first world.
No, it's on the second world. It's the one with all the platforms.
Oh, all the disappearing platforms. Are you talking about the last level of that world?
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that level. Actually, it's a lot of fun to play.
I get the feeling the 10th level of each world, they're all like they all give me the same feeling. It's kind of hard to explain, but
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that the way I conceptualized designing these levels kind of evolved from like but that was a bad way to start that sentence. Hold on. The so there's a very like common game design technique of teaching the player, and like you get the difficulty curves that ramps up and then drops down a little bit and then ramps up some more as it continues. So the design of the game is very like sector or world focused, where the beginning of the worlds are relatively easy and they have like simple concepts that you can practice in a safe space, and then it gets like expanded on over the course of the world. And then the final world is meant to be like a challenge of sorts, and the challenge is always for me very like twitchy, I guess.
yeah.
So like the last level of the second world is very like you have to move fast and you can't stop and think about what you're doing. You just got to keep going. Same thing for the last level of the game. The last level of the main game, the 5 worlds. That one's actually my favorite level to do. And all of the last world I like a lot for that same reason. But
Yeah, I like the ending as well. I think
mm,
my favorite level, let me see if I can find it. It's either
sure.
in World 4 or World 5 where the spikes come up whenever you leave the platform.
Yeah, that's 4.
Yeah, it's for this level right here. Here, this level is so I love it so much. So at the start you have to go to the
Oh yeah, that one.
yeah, you have to go to the right side, and you have to avoid landing on the spikes, and also use the double jump in a really interesting way.
Yeah, the I don't know what you would call that obstacle, but the spikes that shoot up when you leave the area is like creating levels that feel like they utilize them properly was really difficult, I think. Like that level and a couple other ones in that world actually were some of the last stuff that I designed because I was putting it off because I was having a hard time like figuring out ways to use them that made them make sense and wasn't like just, oh, they're there and now I have to go, you
Yeah.
know. So that one was born from like you have to be very particular about how you progress to the top of the level in order to make it back. But it is, I think the balancing of the levels shows a little bit in that sense too, because by the time I'm finishing up with these last couple levels, I'm like, man, I'm designing more than 50 levels. At this point, I'd probably designed like upwards of 70 levels and cut most of it. And so, like, level design fatigue is starting to set in a little bit. So I'm like, man, how confident am I about like how fun this is to play? But I mean, you seem to enjoy it, and as I play through it for fun myself, I'm like, oh yeah, this is fine. I think the level immediately after this one, though, I like more, but that's just because it's so weird.
Oh yeah, let me go back.
Excuse me, a little
That's the
bit.
one with the spike platforms.
Yeah, it's the one with the moving platforms. Like, you have to go over to the left, and then as you try to make your way back, you have to like time your jumps right to land on moving platforms.
Yeah, I like it because. So I don't know if you watch my run, but in the speed run, you
Oh,
actually. Well, what I do is I just ignore the fact that there are spikes there, and I just land on the moving platforms instead.
oh yeah, no, absolutely. That's kind of what I was thinking. Is what's an interesting the way that you can set it up so that the player has to do it a particular way on the way back is different, I guess. Like, you go there, like, if you're not thinking and you're going, okay, I'm gonna go jump over to the left and collect the star or whatever and make it back, and then have a moment of realization, like, oh, I can't do the same thing back. I have to figure out how to get back and how to time my stuff right. But yeah.
I always called those sparklies, so now I'm gonna have to call them stars.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Sparkly sound good too. I always called them like energy clusters, which is a huge mouthful.
Yeah, that's a good one. What do you
Yeah.
call the red saws?
Red saws. So the red saws are a concession to like limited art ability, I guess. And the fact that my intention with the hazards and things that can kill you besides falling off the level is everything is red, I guess. Like, I guess the ones that shoot up in the bottom are orange and the moving ones are purple, but you get the idea. They're like red tinged. Like, immediately know that they're bad because they're red tinged. So
Yeah, I get that. It's like color theory. It's like what was the color of mushrooms in Super Mario? Those
oh
were
yeah, the
all
purple ones kill you, yeah.
yeah, all color coded.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually my favorite world is the fifth one with the moving platforms because there's so many ways to approach it.
Yeah, the fifth one is my favorite also. Watching your speed run of the last level of that world was it really interesting because you approached it in a way that I never approached it.
Oh really? Now I have to go see it. Oh yeah, every time I try it, I do a different one. I swear, I'm like still trying to figure it out. But
Yeah, I'll give you I'll tell you how I beat that one, which is really fun, is I just go for it. Like, I don't, I play it so that I never touch the same platform twice.
you know, I tried single jumps. That strat where you just
Mhm.
do.
Yeah. Yeah, if you double jump, you die if you try to do it like that because you don't have enough time. The challenge of that one for me is like getting the timing exactly right to be able to jump immediately as the spikes come up.
Yeah, it's extremely precise. If anyone at home is watching this level, this is easily one of the hardest levels I've ever played.
I love it. It's a challenge on purpose. It is the last official, like, final level,
I think
Not counting the chase at the end, of course.
on my first speedrun, I took like 5 minutes on it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's so nice.
It's
Also,
interesting.
the level, I forget if it's before or like two before, where this jump is so tight.
I'm trying to think of which one you're talking about.
This jump is
Oh
the.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. That whole level. This is another symptom of game level design fatigue. This is another one that was one of the last ones I made. Where it's like, man, at this point, I've been playing this game for so many hours, like testing and retesting levels that my ability is so much different from the average person, and I'm one person, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have that many like good friends that are consistent platform players. So it's really hard to judge like how difficult something is. And in hindsight, yeah, that level's a little bit too tight. Like there are some jumps in that level that even now, if I'm playing through it, give me fits.
I think everyone that's ever played I Want to Be the Guy just loves that type of garbage.
Sure, sure, yeah. Well, that's funny because my I was never making this game with the intention for it to be that hard. It's just that because I have like previous platform experience and as I'm making it, I'm wanting to give myself a challenge. I just end up making levels that are significantly harder than I was intending just to like make myself have more fun as I'm playing.
Yeah, I definitely feel ya. It seems like it would be harder to make like an easy game.
Maybe I think that with a actual team or like even just a partner that can like play levels as I make them and be like, hey, this is bullshit and this is fine and this is whatever would be a lot of help. But I don't know, enjoy making stuff by myself
Yeah, I
because
feel
I
ya.
like I like the idea of having full like I made this myself. This is all stuff that I did. I did all the music, programming, whatever. Um, the art is something that I am trying to get better at. I think maybe you might have noticed that the pixel art on the my next project is a little bit more complicated. Um, but yeah, that's you know, programming and art are not my backgrounds. Music is my background, so it's a challenge to learn how to do all this stuff.
Let's talk about the music then, because the music, it's definitely like a Risk of Rain vibe for me. Did you ever play that?
Let me look that up really quick because it might have been that I know what it is, but I'm not placing it. No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with this one actually. It is also, funnily enough, made in the same engine that I make it. Made my game in.
Oh, nice. Yeah, but
Yeah, both game maker.
the music, it's very atmospheric and kind of some of them are slow paced, some of them are fast paced, but they all have the same vibe, you know?
Yeah, that was something that I was trying to do intentionally with the fact that it's all in space and
Yeah.
give it kind of like that glittery, shimmery, not natural vibe, I guess. I did music for another game. I was commissioned to do some work on. The name of the game escapes me. I should probably go and make sure I can remember what that game was called. But and that game was also like partially set in space. And so I think and that was what I worked on immediately before doing the music for this game. So I think that kind of influenced me a little bit too. And I have to go figure out what that game's name was called because I totally forgot. It was like almost a year ago at this point. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you another screenshot. So some of the
Right, right.
levels, they're extremely difficult, but some of them, like this, the flow is just so nice.
Oh yeah, that one's really fun to do quick once you realize how it works. Since you can just like go straight if you're holding down a button and not have to like try to jump on each one individually.
Yeah, it's interesting because it comes right after the level before it took me like I think 20 minutes casually to figure out.
Mm.
I kept getting the left part and then dying on the right part and then getting the right part and dying on the left part.
Oh yeah, that one's another one that I think I regret a little bit because it's more tight than I was intending. Especially the last jump that you have to make on the right side.
Oh yeah,
That
that jump
that
is
that
rough.
jump like went through a bunch of changes because it was just too tight. In hindsight, I might have cut that level and changed it with another one that I didn't add in. Like I said earlier, there's probably upwards of 20 levels that didn't make it into the game because I realized that trying to finish the game with the like current plan that I had set forth wasn't realistic if I was actually going to get anything done.
Well, I think 50 levels, nice and compact. It really suits the game.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I realized fairly late into development that that was going to be the case because the original plan was going to have upwards of like 90 levels. And it
That would
was
be
going to have
something.
another world too. It was going to be like, I think it was 6 worlds of like 18 levels or something like that. Something around that. It's been a little while since I dropped that, so I can't remember exactly what I had written down, but yeah, ending up with 5 of 10 ended up making more sense.
Yeah, 10's a nice easy number.
For sure. And I think that it also forced me to, like you said earlier, there's not a lot of repeated ideas. Um, as I was making the game, I was doing my best to not have repeated ideas, but cutting a bunch of stuff really forced me to do that. Hold on, I think I have the game that I did music for before making this game. Hold that up here. Gem Hunter. It's on Congregate. I can send you the link for it.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll play it.
It's not like an action game. It's like a Minesweeper game. My friend did the art for it, and he knew the developer, so he got the developer to commission me for music. But it's funny that project I wasn't expecting to do a lot of work for. Like he said, "Oh, I need some music for when X happens." I was like, "Okay, I'll make something for you," and then he just kept on asking me to do more stuff, and it ended up that I was doing all of the music, and I didn't really realize that was what I was getting myself into.
Give a mouse
Um,
a cookie, right?
yeah, it was interesting. I like a lot of the tracks that I made for it. I don't I don't know. It was kind of a weird working relationship, I think, a little bit, because I've never really got the sense that he was like a fan of any of the stuff that I sent him, but he was always like appreciative. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
That's interesting. I have a artist that makes like emotes for me for free, and I
Hmm.
always feel like, oh man, I should probably be paying this guy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's another interesting thing. Like when I started making project with my pixel artist friend earlier, it was something that we were like, we're gonna split the proceeds if we sell anything. So I didn't end up paying him. I didn't have any money. Still don't have really any money. But and that was another reason why I ended up dropping the project because I didn't want to take up his commission work time. Now he gets a lot more work than he did back then, so he definitely wouldn't have done it for me now. Probably in future projects, I'll commission him because he's really good.
All right, I'm too focused on the game. I gotta stop playing
Are you playing through it right now?
it. Yeah, let's play through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting game. Yeah, so you made this game all by yourself.
Yes.
That's pretty crazy. I did I think it was back in middle school. I made a game, but I never released it, and it was. I think it was also like 50 levels, but it was just like basically the same for each screen. But I always had fun
Uh,
making level design and stuff, and just making different things.
for sure. When I was really, really little, I would make really simple games to play with like other grade school age kids. And then as I got older, I got interested in doing things like web design. In middle school, I was doing HTML and CSS and stuff. And then when I got to high school, I just kind of dropped all that stuff. And I was working on like being a musician. And I was taking piano lessons and playing a lot of guitar and playing French horn and whatever. And then in college, I went into college with the expectation of becoming a music teacher and all this stuff. And then as I'm doing college, I realized I don't really want to be a music teacher. I have some things about it that rubbed me the wrong way, and I regretted not doing like computer science, which was my other love. And then so out of college, I had a music degree, and like some cursory coding knowledge just from casually looking into stuff, and a lot of love for like games and music and anime and all those other things. Um, and I had a good friend that I was living with that and went to the same college and was in the music program with me that also double majored as a computer science person and was wanting to get into indie game development. And she gave me a lot of I don't know, inspiration, I guess. Like I had before I knew about them, I had already been looking into like what are some simple uh, game development platforms that I can learn how to use and all that stuff. But like really learning more about the indie game community and stuff through her was a big inspiration for getting my butt into gear into actually making stuff. And of course, I didn't actually release anything until like 4 years later. But you know, we got to start somewhere.
That is true. So, music teacher. I actually play the piano and I'm learning the guitar right now.
That's cool. I think I started piano when I was 8, something like that, and then did like band and stuff and picked up guitar when I was like 13. It was always a part of my life in the same amount probably as like gaming and stuff like that. But I know it's always interesting the choices we make when you're younger, and you know, now that I'm a little bit older, like what I would have done in the past to like make myself more proficient at what I'm doing right now. But you know, it's never too late to learn how to do things like programming, which is the biggest problem for me, like figuring out how to do all the really complicated stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually, when I started college, I was a computer science major, but then it just got too complicated, you know?
Mhm.
So now I am a film major, which is much, much more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you get into the thick of whatever subject you're studying, you realize that everything's just about as hard as everything else. It just depends on how much you want to commit to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I wouldn't have ever conceived of the level of complicated music theory that I was learning in my final years of college, but there's still so much about music theory and about pedagogy and all this other stuff that I don't know because there's not enough time to learn all of it in just 4 years.
There's so many. There's so much stuff going on in songs. Like I watched this video of this guy. I don't know if you know Baby No Money.
No, I'm not familiar.
He tried to make a song like him, and there's like a bunch of different stuff that goes behind making a beat. Like you have to figure out the instruments and the pitch and everything.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the process of making a beat and the process of composing, I mean, they're obviously very similar, but like how you approach that kind of thing depends on like what kind of musical background you have. Like for me, I'm always thinking of like melody and texture first before I'm thinking of like rhythm, but that's mostly from like a classical music upbringing. And so like learning how to do things like a more hip beat, I guess, uh, is interesting. Like learning how to properly use the DAW, and that's the kind of thing that even though I went to music school, it wasn't my focus of study. So like I just taught myself how to use things like Logic X and was what I use.
I
And I
am.
did.
I don't know what any of that is.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So like Logic Pro X is well, DAW is a digital audio workstation. It's what people use to make beats or to compose or to whatever. Um, probably the most prevalent ones are Ableton Live, Logic X, and what's the other one? There's another really big one that
FL
Pro Tools
Studio.
is the other one. Pro Tools is the other one. So those are the three really big ones, and I use Logic X because I use a Mac. So like that's the one that is built for it, and I like it. So
Oh, what engine did you use for Galaxy Cat?
it's a program called Game Maker Studio 2. There's a couple like pretty prevalent games that are made with it. notably, Undertale was made with Game Maker, like the original Game Maker, and so was Hyper Light Drifter was made in Game Maker.
I was a big fan of Undertale when that game came out. I remember I watched Sky's video on it and I watched Donkey's video on it. I was like, I gotta play
Mm.
this.
Yeah, and my friend introduced me to Undertale like immediately after it came out, and I put off playing it for about a month, and then fell in love with it, and then it blew up. Like right after I played it, it started to become like really really big.
Yeah, but it's crazy. I actually did not get spoiled at all, despite watching Donkey and Sky,
Sure, yeah.
which is
They're
like
very good
so
at that.
unlikely.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Toby Fox made Undertale and Game Maker with some help of some programmer people that he knew, and like I said, Hyper Light Drifter, which is crazy. You don't think that a game as like beautiful as Hyper Light Drifter would have been made in Game Maker, but it was, and it's really impressive. Also, the original version of Splunky was made in Game Maker. There's a later version that was made in Unity, I think, but the first one was made in Game Maker too.
I'm looking up Hyper Light Drifter. That is a very cool looking game.
Oh, if you never played that game, the game's really good.
What's it about?
It's hard to say. It's an interesting narrative. It's interesting narratively because it's portrayed through like pictures, and there's no dialogue or text or anything.
I was gonna
So like
say it
whenever you
reminds
come
me of
up to
Titan Souls.
yeah, it's a little bit like Titan Souls. I think that they came out roughly around the same time.
It's
I would
interesting.
say it's got more emphasis on like atmosphere than Titan Souls does. I
Yeah, this is a
actually in
cool
my
looking
head
game. I
mix
gotta play
those two
this.
up all the time. Yeah.
Alright, what were we
Yeah,
talking
just
about?
watching the opening cutscene's really good.
So, when you made this game, did you ever imagine people would be speedrunning it?
I thought that if it got any level of popularity, then it would be with people that were into speedrunning. I think that the fact that there's not a lot of intrusiveness with the game helps with that.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
is I think I don't know. I think that it wasn't designed with speedrunning in mind, since there's not a lot you can do to just skip stuff. I think.
Yeah, there could be a all sparklies run or a no sparklies run. Any percent.
Yeah, exactly. There's no like collectibles. I mean, the whole game is based around collectibles, but there's no like optional things that can make you go faster, if you know what I mean. It's very cut and dry, like you do the thing and you reach the end of the level. But on the other hand, because of the collectible aspect that forces you to get them all, there is a little bit of optimization and figuring out the best route to get them and how to get to the end. So it could go both ways, but it wasn't designed for being speedrun, I guess. Even though it's a lot of fun to go fast.
That is true.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd ever add a way to skip the dialogue?
You can skip the. Well, I wouldn't. You can skip the dialogue in the sense that mashing gets through it really quickly, but I don't think that it's intrusive quite enough to be worth coding in like a straight like press this to. I don't know. You can skip the opening cutscene, and I think that's about as far as I would do. Early concepts of the game. There was like a hardcore or like I was calling it like a cat mode where you'd have to beat the game in 9 lives. And I think that version, if I like made that version available, you would like cut out all of the cutscenes and just go like level to level and try to get through as fast as possible.
Oh wow, that would be insanely difficult. I don't think any of my runs have gotten less than 9 deaths.
Yeah, that's one reason why it got cut. Is realizing that's not really feasible. It is kind of fun from like a conceptual way to be like, oh, it's a cat. You can choose to have like a proper amount, but then like the story doesn't make any sense because Kaz is supposed to be essentially immortal. So that's partially why you'd cut out the cutscenes in that case. I think that now that I have more experience programming, there are some like glitchy things and some UI stuff that I would fix up, and I probably will in the coming months, like patch it up a little bit.
Like
But
a star
as
counter?
far as the game design goes, what's that?
Like a star counter?
Well, no, as far as the game design goes, I would leave it all the same. I think that things like getting proper like audio controls and fixing like a pause glitch that I know about but I haven't fixed yet, and other things like that.
Oh, you have to tell me about this.
About the pause glitch.
Yeah, what's the pause glitch?
So the way that I coded the pausing early on doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And now I know how to do it properly, but right now you like lose all your momentum if you pause.
Oh, mid-air pausing.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever paused.
Yeah, yeah. So it is never a problem, except at the final chase scene. If you try to pause as you're falling, when you unpause, it kills you.
That's amazing. Can you go through
Yeah.
the exits?
No. No, it's just that because you lose your momentum, the thing that's chasing you catches up to you and kills you if you pause.
Oh, I get it. I thought you meant on the falling down
Yeah, when you're
screens.
falling at the end. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't realize because I was never pausing there, but some people that I sent the game to pointed out, like, oh, yeah, this is a problem. Um, so yeah, I will patch that up and add in proper like audio controls and things like that in a future update. But as far as the game design goes, it's done. Like I'm not going to change stuff. The only other thing that I probably will patch in is increasing just a little bit, increasing the hitbox for the collectibles.
Oh yeah, that'll be huge. That'll be a huge difference. I've had so
It's
many deaths
funny.
where I just mix it by like a pixel.
Yeah, well, it was apparent to me, like watching your initial playthrough, when it would look like you're immediately next to the thing and you wouldn't pick it up and then you would die. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. And it's funny because, like, when I'm playing through it, I'm so used to how everything is laid out that, like, even though the hitbox on the collectibles are larger than they would be normally, they're not quite large enough to compensate for how small everything is in the game. So.
Well, since you brought up that you watched it, did I shit talk too much?
No, not at all. I thought you were actually quite generous with your opinions about it.
Okay, cool. Because sometimes when I play games, I sort of don't regulate myself, and I'm like, "Fuck this level," you know.
No, it's funny because like I think you're talking to your chat at a certain point, and there's someone saying like this is awful or whatever, and you're like, nah, it's just hard. You just got to keep trying or something like that. But
Oh yeah, I remember that. I think that was Stu. So everyone, go on Twitter and complain at Stuoid.
nah, don't do that. That's fine. I think like this is my first official like I have lots of prototypes laying around of various projects. This is the first thing that I've put out into the world like this. So you expect a certain level of criticism and like having a larger amount of people look at something can point out like elements that are unpolished that you wouldn't be able to see yourself as a creator.
I just want to say you are by far the most reasonable person I've ever talked to. It's
That's funny.
actually crazy.
I mean, I consider myself pretty chill in general.
Yeah. It's weird thinking you're so chill and you made that fucking World 5.
Hey man, I love things like Dark Souls. I love hard platformers.
This is the Dark
It's
Souls of
funny. I don't get
platformers,
mad at
yeah.
those games. What's that? Sorry.
This is the Dark Souls of platformers.
No, 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 no. There are the Dark Souls of platformers is literally Hollow Knight, but Hollow Knight is definitely my favorite platformer at the moment.
Yeah, I played through Hollow Knight. That game, the music, the art, the gameplay, it just all comes together, you know?
Yeah, it's especially impressive when you find out that it's made primarily by two people and had a third programmer help them on it.
It seems like a lot of the games that are coming out, like Undertale, one guy, Stardew Valley, one guy.
Oh man, Stardew Valley's crazy. I can't believe that that game was made by one person.
Yeah, me too.
Concerned Ape, the developer of Stardew Valley, is absolutely crazy.
I think I read like No, I didn't read an interview. I watched a video about like a biography of him and how he made that game, and it's just that's dedication.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that I don't have any plans for projects that are quite as ambitious as that. I do think that there will be something that I make in the future that will be that level of like crazy, but probably not until I have some other projects under my belt.
I meant to say it earlier, but for your second project, if you ever need a playtester, I'm right here.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem sending you some early stuff that I'm working on. Yeah, the project I'm working on now is also like in the same vein as Galaxy Cat or all of these other hard platformers. They get hit once and die and restart the level kind of game. Unlike Galaxy Cat, it's more traditional in like a side scrolly kind of way. Um, and has wall jumping. The main, like, I don't know, it is fun to make like simple concepts. Like Galaxy Cat came out of a desire to make single screen levels and not have to worry about programming a camera.
Yeah.
Was the main motivation for that design choice. And this game has a camera and side scrolling and slightly longer levels and stuff. So we'll see. I do also have a conceptually, I have a story idea and gameplay idea for the sequel to Galaxy Cat, but that's not going to come out until I finish a couple other projects that I've already started working on.
Well, I am nothing but patient if you know how long I've been waiting for Spelunky 2.
For me, I'm waiting for the third King Kriller Chronicle book. But
I don't know if I've ever read that. What's it called again?
it's Name of the Wind. The Name of the Wind is the first one. They're by Patrick Rothfuss. The second one was Wise Man's Fear. And I don't know. I don't think the third one has a working title or anything. But that one, like Wise Man's Fear, came out. I want to say like 8 years ago or something like that. Maybe it wasn't that long ago, but people have been asking Patrick Rothfuss to finish writing it for years. And to his credit, he is working on it, but he also did write several comics in the meantime. So,
Yeah, I don't know much about that, but I've. Do you know Darren Shawn?
no, I'm not familiar with him.
Do you know Tom Holt?
Nope.
Oh, I thought we were. You a big book fan?
Yeah, I used to. Well, before all of this pandemic stuff, I was working at a bookstore.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
currently furloughed, unfortunately, because of pandemic stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, I've just been hiding in my house as well.
yeah. Although the pandemic did allow me to focus my time and finish Galaxy Cat, so there's that.
You know what? Maybe it was all worthwhile.
I don't know about that, but
Yeah.
I don't think that. Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to get into it. But for
A
sure, for
small
sure.
price to pay for Galaxy Cat.
Yeah, a game that so far like less than 50 people have bought.
No, though, you know why I bought it? I went on Steam and I literally searched 2D platformer and I just kept scrolling. And then I
Uh-huh.
saw yours and I saw the art style. And I said, when you see art style like this, where it's kind of, well, I guess I'll say simplistic, but when you see art
Mhm.
style like that, it's not someone that's trying to just make a quick buck.
Oh, sure, yeah. I think that start to finish, this game took like 2 years to make, which is crazy to think about, but there's a large portion of that time where I was hardly working on it at all, so in hindsight, it's not really that surprising.
I'm watching back through my World 5 and I can't wait to try this doing single jumps.
Oh, yeah, I had never considered that anybody would do it any other way, so have fun with that, I guess.
Yeah. It's gonna be a dev intended speedrun.
I'm curious what time I would get if I took the time to like seriously play through it.
You could
But
definitely
I
beat
am
my time.
considering making a video of like a developer commentary or something. But
Okay, now I have to put out a sub 15 and get you on commentary. That'll be hype. I think you could probably get sub 14, but I think that's about the barrier.
yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. There's a couple levels that I completely mess up all the time. So I think it would take me a little bit to be consistent. So yeah, that's Galaxy Cat. That's 50 levels of fun kitten action.
Yeah, I think I might have run out of things to say, but I love your game.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably talk about things that are unrelated to the game as over the course of this podcast, but
I think I think this has been good. So thanks for coming on.
yeah, absolutely, man. It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, maybe sometime we'll talk again, not on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Feel free to DM me anytime, and I'll feel free to send you whatever prototypes I'm working on.
All right. This has been Choco-talko episode 4 with Joe English on Galaxy Cat. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Say bye again.
Bye.